talks about authenticity. If you're a spiritual leader or some sort of health coach, wellness coach, anybody, and doesn't know how to address this topic, you aren't any good. And here's what we're going to do here on this channel that's going to be so different. I will never say something that I don't believe is true. That doesn't mean I'm right all the time. I am probably going to be wrong sometimes, but that's usually subjective wrongness rather than objective wrongness. Objectively, there's always going to be a debate. There's always going to be an ability to debate. My point, right or wrong, you can take either stance on it. I will never tell you something that I don't actually feel to be true, and even to my own detriment. In fact, often to my own detriment. Because as, you know, the famous philosopher Plato says, nobody is more hated than a person who tells the truth. And that is true. Because you see the people in our society who are really telling it the way it is, and I could name names, but I won't, because people get literally triggered by just the names of the people who I believe are telling their truth. I mean it. I mean their truth. Because they don't pussyfoot around shit. They tell exactly the way they feel to be true. Even you've hurt some people's feelings. And you know what? I've thought long and hard about this. You have to stop caring so much about the sensitive ones in our society. They need to toughen up. You don't need to soften up. Because it's their softness that makes them weak. It's your toughness that makes you strong. So, while there is some sort of truth that you must be articulate, elaborate, and considerate to some extent, you should not be self-censoring yourself from speaking truth to protect a hypersensitive person's feelings, because they're going to be sensitive about anything. They're always going to be offended. So no matter what, unless you're just talking complete bullshit, nonsense, surface level garbage, you're going to upset them. And even sometimes trying to do those things are going to upset them. They're never going to get better. You're never going to be able to say anything profound around them. And they're never going to be able to be exposed to something, the elements which weather them. And if you want to take, for instance, a bird or some forest animal, just even like a fox, a coyote, or even a rat. These are tough creatures. I'm from Canada. These creatures survive Canadian winter in the prairies, which gets to be minus 40 with plus wind chills sometimes. How are they so tough? Because they have to be. You know, we live in a world where we shelter these people. They don't have to be tough anymore. They aren't tough. They're weak, and they're going to fail in their lives because of it. And almost to the extent that the nicest thing you can do is to help them to toughen up. If you can do it if you have time, if this is a person who's close to you, and you have time to incrementally kind of introduce them to tougher and tougher realities and lessons, I mean, that would probably be the most effective way. But the reality is, most people you don't have the chance to do that with. You got to just hit them with a hammer, and they're gonna be pissed, and they're gonna walk away, and they might go freak out, or they might run away. Lots of different reactions happen in those situations where somebody's reality is shattered. There's gonna be a whole lot of different ways that they demonstrate their meltdown. And some of them will ice you, some of them will run away, some of them will ghost you, some of them will freak out, some of them will attack you, some of them will physically attack you. That's rare, but that happens. But you have to be able, and that part of being tough is being able to handle the backlash, because trust me, there will be backlash. And that's part of what makes somebody tough, is knowing that there will be backlash and accepting that you will be able to handle the backlash. Now, I was talking to he's not a friend of mine, somebody I know. He's a karate master. I mean, I respect martial arts a lot because these people are tough. I don't care what martial art it is. You can always make an argument of maybe one modality might be better than the other, but maybe they're better for different things. But this guy particularly was a karate master. He was apparently probably pretty good. And he told me something which took me a while to even realize the relevance of it. But he said, if you ever want to be a good fighter, the first thing, the biggest thing preventing you from being a good fighter isn't necessarily your technical skill. It is your fear of getting punched, especially in the face. Once you can overcome that fear, you will be a better fighter. And it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me because of what I'm just saying. If you want to be a good debater, if you want to be a good argumentative person, if you want to be an authentic person, telling people the way you see it, the way you really feel it is, and the more authentic you become, the more you feel it to be true is going to be the reality of the truth. I really believe that because it's a muscle. You're practicing that intuitive feeling and objective observation, which can be emotional, but it's controlled emotional, so that's a whole different topic. We will get into that, trust me, but right now I want to focus on what I was just saying. So if you're afraid of being hit in the face every single minute of a fight, you're going to be focused on defending yourself a lot more when you should be sometimes attacking. There's a time and place to defend, there's a time and place to attack. If you're afraid to attack, you'll never win a fight. And because sometimes doing an attack puts you at a defensive disadvantage. And the really good fighters can do a bit of both. But sometimes you just gotta be like, commit to a full-blown attack. And if you cannot do that, and because you're too afraid of being hit back or countered, then you'll lose every single fight you get into. Or maybe just draw it out. You'll never win. Now, is everything always about winning and losing? No, not necessarily. Picking your battles is important. There's certain relationships that aren't worth losing. And in those situations, silence can be your best thing, but never, ever, in my opinion, would I condone lying, telling something a mistruth to appease them, because that weakens you. You are becoming weaker because of that lie, because even if it's a politeness, that is a lie. It's disingenuine. Being disingenuine and being a flat-out liar are the same thing in my eyes. They're the exact same thing. Some people might argue that and be like, no, you're just trying not to ruffle feathers. It's not the same as lying. No, it's the same as lying. Telling somebody, oh, I think you're really funny, when you think they're not funny at all, that's a flat-out lie. I don't care if you're doing it to make them happy, to appease them. Laughing at somebody's joke when you don't find it funny, that's a lie. Something as simple as that. I'm talking about eliminating this censorship, this desire to appease through this ingenuineness altogether. That's more what authenticity is to me. And I'm going to have to explain this over a longer period of time, because I do want these videos to be kind of short and digestible, around 10-12 minutes at the tops. So I think it's going to take a while to explain this topic, because it is a really crucial importance that you really understand what I mean when I say these things. So to close this off, a recap, I'm going to say, when you do become authentic, it means never being disingenuous. That's really all it means. To what you really feel. That is living an authentic life. And when you start doing this, you will actually be hated for it. And I'm not just saying that you will lose friends and sometimes family members. People will abandon you because they can't handle it, because there's too much pressure. The intensity is too strong. You will become a more intense person because of it. There's no option. The more authentic you become, the more intense you become. They're directly associated. It seems like there's an obscure link between these two, and maybe I can't even probably define this link. But I will talk about it more in the next part of this section and see if we can come to an answer for why this happens, why this phenomenon occurs. The more authentic you become, the more you are hated. You'd think you become the opposite, but no. It's going to polarize. Some people are going to hate you, and then you actually start to attract the people who love you. So that's what's going to happen. Expect a dramatic change in the people you are surrounded by and the people you have been surrounded by. They're going to switch. You're going to repulse and repel those who cannot handle genuine dialogue, and you're going to attract people who can. And actually, those are going to be the people who become better friends to you ultimately. Even if there's been somebody in your life that you've been friends with for 10 years, if they can't handle your genuine self, even somebody who comes into your life and spends 6 months with you, handling that side of you is going to be closer in those 6 months than that person was in 10 years. So expect a transformation. It will happen, but I do believe it will be worth it, even if you lose more than you gain.